the class that I took was called Real World as an Exit class. And there's only one thing I remember from that class. It was a question that the professor asked. He was the professor, the advisor of all of the art college, whatever, BFA program. And he, in a room of like 20 students that had made it to their last year in art school, that didn't drop out, get married, or otherwise, or switch majors to something they knew they could get a career in. He asked, what's the definition of selling out? Is it selling out to accept money for your artwork? And everyone in the classroom, except for myself and one other person, was like, yes, it's totally selling out to accept money for your artwork. And I saw that there was a big difference between myself and everyone else that I was going to school with, in the sense that I was like, you want to give me money first? Yeah, that doesn't compromise my beliefs or my belief system at all. I will totally, and I think that's how I ended up being able to focus and not feel weird that I was setting my heart on this one thing. I was, I'm going to be a photographer and that's it, or I'm going to be an artist and that's it. I was actually able to be like, you know what, it's totally fine. I will take whatever, as long as I get to create something and have control over that situation and help people find, tell a story or whatever it's going to be, I will accept money for that, and that's going to be my career. And that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing now, is just being open-minded to that experience and not being like, well, I'm an illustrator and that's it. No, I'm whatever you what do you want? What do you need? I'll help you with that. You probably have the same philosophy on it. Yeah.
It's funny because I grew up in a family of merchants, and my wife likes to joke that I say that a lot, and that's because my grandparents, they sold produce. They worked in the farms, and this is a long time ago in Mexico. I lived in Mexico for 5 years when I was a kid. Growing up in East LA, we moved to Mexico, and I worked with them. I worked with them in the stores, and I saw them selling. I saw my mother selling Tupperware, Avon, and all this other stuff. Of course, I was born in the 70s, so this is the 70s, and then the 80s. And it's like, I know we were poor, but we had what we needed. And at no time did my mother say, no, you can't have it because we don't have money. It was either no, you're just not going to get it, so don't ask, or I got it, and so I saw her resilient spirit come through time and time again, and hardly any jobs. And so I told myself, everything's for sale. We moved several times, and in the week before moving, out of state, we moved from LA to Oregon when I was a junior in high school. And the week of us moving, people came to pick up our furniture and take it with them to their house, because she has pre-sold everything. This before Kickstarter. She had pre-sold all our things except for the books. Except for the books and some clothes. And that's it. And we moved somewhere new, and we had to start all over. And so I realized that things are for sale. Even though today I'm addicted to the electronics and things, I have bicycles and whatever, it'll offer me enough money, it's for sale. Because I can always get more, and I'm not attached to the material things a certain way. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to have a regular job, and it's not necessary. I can create a business out of a hobby. And art was always a hobby. And anyway, I want to hear your definition of selling out, more about what was the answer and how you see it.
Talk about being a sellout.
Yeah, but and I'm like, if it's something you enjoy, a hobby is something you enjoy doing, but you put money into it.
Sure.
What if you did something you enjoy and then got money out of it?
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah. To me, that's it. And that's not selling out if I enjoy it.
Exactly. And I think that the idea that one college professor brought up that differentiates a lot of people that want to get into the arts and make a career out of it from people that actually succeed in making a career out of the arts is, what are your standards? What is your set standards? What are you willing to compromise on versus, what makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel good? And with the realization that you can make your own dreams come true if you just felt good about whatever you were doing or whatever, or you didn't have these really bizarre standards of this is art, this isn't for sale, there's no, this is its own form of whatever, I think it you could see the success rate of people that are open-minded, that have a different set of not standards, but a different value set.
Yeah, and standards means where you stand.
Yeah.
You know, so really, if somebody's giving you money for something you was going to do anyway,
right? Yeah.
Then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're telling me to do something and it's not related to what I do, or it's not a message I enjoy, then that's where you have to take a stand and say, well, where are you and who are you?
And we talked about this yesterday. It's like, well, even then, would you put it under another sub-brand and say, I'll still do it, but it's not. That's not me. That's a different brand. Like, this is go to this business. I'll do it under this name, you know?
Sure, right,
like
yeah.
The black box of don't recommend me, you know?
Right.
like, please don't tell people I did this, but I still want the paycheck, you know?
Some ghostwriting.
Sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if there's someone that listens to, like, our talk today and that's what they get from this, then that's perfect. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, you know, like doing something that you love and having a set standard of like, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm willing to not do. And even if it's something that I don't want to do, is there a way I can still capitalize on that? It's all about finding things you can capitalize on and make an opportunity out of it.
And however you shape your message and brand yourself, I think will lend to letting people know what you stand on and whether or not that's something you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean...
we had that discussion yesterday where, you know, if you have a very serious tone to your artwork and it's very personal and, you know, you don't want to have that co-opted by something that, you know, a company giving you money for that, you know, but you may be willing to, you know, write something for them or, you know, produce something for them that's within, you know, their brand guidelines or whatever that, you know, you can do, that you are specifically taking money for that piece. It's not made for you or personally, and you're willing to sell that. Right. You know, as where you may feel differently about something that's, you know...
Like if someone approaches you and says, like, I want this one sculpture that you did, and you're like, I didn't create that for you, that's my private collection, or whatever, bizarre situation. Or, what were we talking about, the band that did the commercial for...
Of Montreal.
Of Montreal, right? And so Of Montreal probably got like a ton of flack for being quote-unquote sellouts, right? But that's the same situation Jared just described. You know, they got approached by a larger company like, hey, we want to use your music for advertisement. Of Montreal was like, you can't use any of the stuff we have. We'll create something for you. Is that selling out? No. I mean, because that's according to Of Montreal's standards, and that's totally fine. So they're not sellouts. But of course, like, you get into the industry and people are like, we're sellouts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey man, I'm eating, so.
Right. And you know, there's you took time to develop a talent.
Yeah.
So if it's marketable, then use that talent to make some money. That's it. I mean, but there's always going to be that question that I think you should ask yourself, and that's something personal that you decide on yourself. You know, it's not. I don't think anyone could determine that for you. Unless there's some constructive criticism saying, you know, that's way outside of your personality. Exactly. You know, and you shouldn't stand for that. That's not you. I don't, you know, but beyond that, man, you're right. You have to eat. You have to make a living. And it's not like people who work 9 to 5 are devoted to sitting in traffic day in and day out, you know, rush hour. You know, that's a part of life. You have to earn. You have to make a living. Right. And those of us who are creative, who have a talent, who have a skill, or you went to school and you developed something, then you should use that. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and you should charge what you're worth, too. Exactly. If someone is asking you to do something, you should know what you're worth and how much your hourly rate is or whatever, and say, yeah, I'll do it for whatever, you know, whatever you agree on, and understand that your talent is worth something. You don't have to give it away, or you don't have, someone doesn't have to sample it or whatever. Like, you can charge for, I mean, like you said, you've dedicated however many years developing this one skill. If someone is interested in purchasing that from you, you should absolutely consider it and put a price tag on it. Right. Because your time is not free. Right. So, yeah, why not? Yeah, everything is for sale, right?
We're in the same line here.
Yeah. Whatever, man. We'll do it. That's fine.
I come across a lot of artists that are very stuck on that. I had those questions myself 20 years ago. You know, and
that's
you open a studio and people walk in, they want certain tattoos on them, and you're like, I don't really want to do that. And so you educate them and you try to, you know, show them a new way and new look, and
they're like,
sometimes it works, right? Exactly, and so then you have to recognize that you opened the store, you opened the doors, you set up the shop, you wanted people to come in here and tell you what they want and give you the money, and then so you're like, okay, well now have to grow as an artist and have some kind of separation between what I know I like and the stuff that I'm getting paid to do. But that somehow it fits within the dynamics of my talent, and can I make it? And then at the end of the day, am I making people happy?
Right.
And so okay, well then I think that's my goal. Happiness. Can they see the value? Can they walk off and say, this is badass, I love it? Great, then I've done my job.
Right.
So but it takes some hard questions about yourself, and you have to sit there and figure it out.
You do have to go through that journey, and it's really hard to separate yourself as an art. I mean, sometimes. Most recently, Jared's helped me with this to not get so caught up in it everything being personal, because it's really hard to separate yourself from what you create. But there's something that I keep reminding myself, especially this year, I do the work, I am not the work.
Right.
This work is for someone else, and this is in the good of doing. This is in my wheelhouse of talents. This is for someone specifically. We create work for clients, and there is a give and take. This isn't solely my project. If this was my project, it'd look way crazier.
Yeah.
So it's there is a certain level of collaboration, and then that already sets you up for a mindset of being this is a living entity that belongs to someone else. I am not this piece of work.
Yeah.
This is not a personal piece that I'm creating,
Right.
So I mean that you have to. There is a certain separation. You have to know yourself. You have to know your worth, and you also have to have that set of standards in place so that you're I'm willing to accept this job, or no, I'm not. Let me refer you to someone else. So yeah, I mean everything is for sale and up to a certain point. So, and it is about making people happy. I mean, we're in the business of telling stories and making sure that the clients that we have walk away with something that helps them grow. And that's on us to help them do that, So there's a sense of responsibility there, And when we're talking to a client, it's can I take this project on? Can I accomplish what I want to accomplish? I only care about making this person grow. I don't care about, making myself look cooler or getting likes on Facebook. That's not the reason we went into business. We went into business to help people. So, yeah.
And I think, and so we're going to get to that point where you two come together, and start dating and so on. But then, how do you figure out that the business that you're gonna launch, and that you're going to Atlanta?
Yeah. So I guess that would be me, right? Because I just kind of sucked you into this business and was here you go. You like it? That's great.
It was a conscious effort on my part to become part of the business. Yeah. It wasn't forced labor.
Yeah, slave labor. Yeah. I was you're going to work at my business whether you like it or not. So I started my career out in with a couple $100 in my pocket. It was a crappy economy. I had an art degree, and I had spent 4 years playing house, basically. So I was okay, real time. We have no money. Now what are we going to do? So, I mean, I did this relative same thing that Jared did. I mean, I worked, part-time or full-time in different places, but I freelanced the entire time that I was doing it because I found, I took a little bit of time off after school, and I found, I can't possibly survive without creating art. And that's a true calling of an artist, of someone that creates. If you take time off, you just feel really junky that you can't create. You have to have an outlet of some sort. So I'd freelance, and my skill was photography, so I ended up freelancing a lot in the photography world. And that worked out great. I ended up paying off student loans. I got a nice, set of equipment that I still use today. I made a lot of connections. I saw a lot about how to run a business, how to ruin a business, because there's a lot of people that ruin businesses. And I actually worked underneath a lot of people that were struggling as small business owners. So it gave me a first look experience into okay, I want to do this for myself. When I was in the beginning of my career, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to get into a situation where I wasn't going to work for anybody else, I was going to work for myself.
But you first have to work for somebody.
Absolutely.
It's all part of the growth. You get to that may be the goal, but you have to find ways.
Oh yeah.
You can't start off that way.
No. I mean, you could if you had a genius idea and someone was let me help you create this business, but you just don't unless you get an MBA or business degree or something. No one teaches you how to really run a business, especially not as creatives.
So did you take internships in the beginning? Did you shadow somebody, or what? How did you start off?
I went straight into asking for money for my skills, right out the door, and it wasn't much money, but I did. I got an opportunity with one of my friends who was a writer at the time, which was great. She was writing these tiny articles for something called Metro Mix online for, like, at the time it was a Tampa publication that was, like, breaking into blogging, you know?